Welcome everyone to OnPodcast, the on Microsoft podcast, where we talk about Microsoft stuff on a podcast. I'm your host today, Kareem Anderson. I'm joined by
David Allen. Hope everybody's doing well out there. We have made it to the end of another week.
we're going to be calling this podcast the Starfield Part 2 podcast because last week we had a lot of Starfield news. This week, this is the release of the game. Both David and myself have played it. We have lots of thoughts. We also have some suggestions for those of you who haven't gotten into it, who are just waiting for the weekend. So strap in, stay for that. That is going to be part of our long discussion. Before we get into any of that, let's get into some of our headlines and what we're going to be talking about for news this week. So we have Minecraft kind of coming out with some rather depressing news if you were an Xbox Series X or S user. We also have some news about a big OneDrive event coming in October. So it's going to be following the big hardware event we believe that will be happening in September. We have Cameo and LG working on delivering apps to Chrome OS Flex devices because they're traders. We have Microsoft talking about Outlook single code base in a new video. It's a very long video, but it's informative and kind of shows why they're deciding to flip the switch on the Mail app in Windows 10 and 11 to become the Outlook app now, despite how frustrating it can be for all of us. Microsoft Outlook will also be allowing us to send larger file sizes, so that 20 megabyte limit that we've all been enduring for the past decade, it's about to be expanded. And then
Finally.
we talked, yeah, finally, we'll be talking about Milo's Photos offering a new way to declutter digital memories because I mean, heaven forbid anybody looks at their phone and goes through all the photos they've taken but never put anywhere. So we're finally going to get some help with that. Let's get into our first headline, shall we?
Let's do it. I'm going to jump right on that Minecraft thing, kind of get the negative stuff here out of the way
Just rip
from
the
the
band-aid
start.
off.
Yep, let's just jump right in and get a little messy with this one. If you're hoping to get the Minecraft update for your Xbox Series X or your Xbox Series S and get a native version, well, sorry, that's not happening right now. Basically, what we have here, the hopes have now been squashed by Microsoft, and this was according to Eurogamer, that there is no such version of Minecraft forthcoming. Given the number of platforms and geographies in the Minecraft in which Minecraft is available, we periodically go through rating reviews and updates of various regional boards. The recent rating does not indicate that any new form of Minecraft platform support is needed in the future. So while we did get a little bit of a teasing of ray tracing support for Minecraft earlier in the year, it does give you some idea of what a potential Xbox Series X or Series S game could look like. I know Minecraft is very popular. All the little ones in my family are Minecraft addicts, so this is a little surprising to me that we're not getting a native version for the Series X, Series S platforms.
Yeah, it's a bit of a head scratcher because again, these are for a company that is lacking exclusives. You have a hit on your hands. You had a hit on your hands for quite a while. You think you'd want to capitalize on it, but given the telemetry, the amount of resources, developer focus, maybe they are all just focusing on new features in game versus creating something, backtracking and just rehashing a version for the console. So I don't know specifically why they wouldn't want to do this. I mean, given their response is still kind of vague, but there's you can still play it on those consoles, so it isn't like they're taking anything away. We're just not getting anything better.
Well, I know that at least my family members and my cousins, nieces, and nephews, they're all Minecraft players. I'm kind of the one guy in the family that does not like it. Interestingly, they're tablet players.
Oh, there you
So,
go.
so I don't know if the audience maybe is, in the numbers that they mentioned, they're seeing that the audience is bigger on the iPad and the Androids, or, and maybe the Xbox numbers don't fit whatever threshold they're looking for.
That is astute because we don't know. We do know that it's trailing behind the Switch, trailing behind PlayStation, and perhaps even trailing behind PC. So, to your point, maybe the numbers just don't bear out to dedicate something like that to such a small would-be audience. Going on to our next headline, we have an event, October 3rd. It's not in person. It is a virtual event. It's dubbed the Future of File Management. That's what Microsoft's calling this one. It'll be happening on October 3rd at about 1 p.m. Via Teams live event platform. So you will need to have Teams if you want to be a part of this. You can attend. You'll have to get an invite, I believe, which you can register for it online. It'll be the first-hand look at OneDrive's enhancements that include faster file access, better organization, and improved security, among other things. So this is going to be the rollout, perhaps, of all of the cool OneDrive UI and feature enhancements we've been teased over the past, I don't know, 3-4 months since build or whatever. We've seen screenshots of this new OneDrive that's supposed to be, a web-based version of an extension of your File Explorer, essentially. The new OneDrive focus, it's not being billed as an all-hands experience, but more kind of catering to IT and partners and the general Microsoft 365 enthusiasts, because, again, these are going to be enterprise features that they were going to be highlighting. I believe earlier this week, we had two other news-breaking stories, which were a boost in transitional phases for storage management evolution, which means that the way that they evaluate photos in OneDrive will essentially count twice against you, even though they're going to be bumping the amount of storage they give you. It all washes out in the end. They're basically going to say if you essentially have 1 terabyte of photos, because of the way that they are doing file management in photos, those photos will be larger in size, but they will be giving you more storage to cope with that. There's another thing that they're going to be doing. I believe one of the headlines was an AI-fed Copilot platform for OneDrive, which will offer stronger suggestion support and searches. So searching for files should be a little more intelligible with this new AI version. And also, I guess, copying prompts as well and saving that data as well. So if you search for a specific type of file or a specific type of document over and over again, the next time you go to search, it'll probably pair up other content that you have in your OneDrive with that as suggestions. Like, okay, you keep looking at your PowerPoint for last year's, marketing research deep dive that you did. Would you like this Excel for all the numbers for last year as well to go along with it? And we can probably put it into your PowerPoint as well. So these are some cool things that we believe will be shown off on October 3rd. So like I said, keep your calendar open for that. It'll be following the September 21st event, which we believe will be a Surface event, Surface hardware event, which will probably have some hints of Windows 11, perhaps even Windows 12 as well. And then they'll follow up with some OneDrive stuff.
I'm finally happy to see this OneDrive stuff. I mean, for me, I've got a Google Drive, which I'm sure a lot of other people do. I've got a OneDrive. I've got, the free, Dropbox account that was given out years ago to try to entice people to get into this cloud storage. But I've always felt like there's this battle right now between local storage and cloud storage, because when you get that cloud storage, you're paying for that monthly bill. And I've always felt like you're just renting storage space that I could go buy and own one time and have the storage, because we don't have the extra features that you mentioned at the enterprise level for sharing documents, for collaborating, for having AI, for having Copilot in there. Sure, we can go in and share a basic document with somebody. We can co-edit in Microsoft 365, and that's nice. But like you said, when you open up File Explorer and try to manipulate your OneDrive, I've always felt like there was a little bit of a disconnect there, that I had to go to the web version to get what I wanted, or vice versa. I had to go to the desktop to easily copy that file back and forth between OneDrive and my PC. So I'm glad to see that they're enhancing the features, kind of giving it a refresh, and maybe everybody can start taking a different look at this cloud storage thing and getting more bang for your buck.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen all the work that they've done with File Explorer in Windows. Imagine if they were able to, in a future way, rip that out and replace it with the web version of
Hmm.
uh, OneDrive, and that'd be your file storage solution that can be transferred across devices, specifically mobile and desktop, or just from desktop to desktop. You move from a Windows PC to a Mac, and you have OneDrive as part of the Finder. Then you've lost nothing, and the way you manage things doesn't change. So, let's hope There's hope that they're working towards that. What's your next headline?
That's kind of what they're
Yeah,
doing with Outlook. So, with the
exactly.
whole one Outlook thing. So maybe we can get it extended. We'll see.
We are hoping for hoping for that. What do you got
All
for
right,
us?
let's see. Let's kind of stay on the business enterprise wavelength for just a minute. We've got a company called Cameo and LG are working together to deliver apps to those devices that we don't talk about a whole lot, Chrome OS Flex devices. Now, this kind of goes along with the collaboration of things, which is kind of the reason I chose it for a headline for today. It allows you or businesses to take LG, a specific list of LG hardware, put the Cameo software on the device, on your Chrome OS Flex device, and then you have access to all of your apps, whether they're Linux, Windows. I think you can even stream Mac, and you can have everything there on one device, and your IT team is able to manage it all in one place. To me, this is cool because I see so many businesses out there. Well, we can do this on a Mac, we can do this on Windows, we can do this on Linux, but we want to give our employees one device, be able to manage it, and have access to all of that. And the nice thing about Chrome OS Flex, if you've never used it, Chrome OS Flex allows you to install Chrome OS on virtually any device. Now, I know we're talking about just LG here, but you can repurpose older machines and install Chrome OS Flex, kind of give new life to those. So maybe this is an inexpensive way for small businesses to jump in and be able to give their employees that cohesive experience. I think this is pretty cool.
Definitely cool. I've always envisioned Chrome OS Flex as the zombie OS that basically infects one and brings it back to life. It reinvigorates it to from what it was from its lesser self. So again, like you said, just for people who want to save money in general, even if you're not deploying this at fleet or at scale, if you're just someone who has a 6, 7, 8-year-old, 9-year-old PC, and you're saying to yourself, I do most of my work on my phone, but it would be nice to have a modern operating system on this piece of hardware that I occasionally go to. Try out Chrome OS Flex for that and see if you enjoy it.
It's good
Our
for
next,
that. I've
I
got
think so.
a laptop to my left here that's about 7 years old that I had more than deprecated off and just happened to throw Chrome OS Flex on it when we published this week just to see what would happen. And it really gave it new life, and it's very much a usable machine.
Awesome. Hopefully, it'll be able to use our next part of our headline, which is Microsoft's Outlook now allows sending larger files through email via Microsoft 365 roadmap. So we're going
Finally.
to be, yes. Uh, like I said, we have been sitting on a 20 megabyte maximum limit for Outlook attachments and files for quite some time. And the solution has been, workaround the solution has been to send out links. And I'm always a bit weary about links because they give you the option to link just the file or link the entire folder, and you're like,
Hmm.
well, I don't want them to have access to the folder. I just want them to have this piece of information specifically without a link for all eternity or whatnot. It seems like with this update, or at least this feature, which is ID 156100, is set to be rolled out actually this month. So you guys should start seeing this larger file size limit. I don't know what the exact bump has been to, but we do know that it will be expanded. Outlook users who often need to share large files will welcome the new feature. Like I said, the roadmap was this part of the update was added to the roadmap on August 2nd, but again, began rolling out today. For those of you who have started sending stuff, maybe your super large GIF files or videos or, embargoes or NDAs or anything like that, please let us know in the comments what you've maxed out at. Because again, I don't know what the size limitation would be. But start testing it today.
Well, I'm going to throw a caveat in this. There's a catch that maybe only our technical people would understand. If you're using an older email address or somebody out there that's still using the old POP SMTP, the old-fashioned email is what I call it. That's not the Office 365, the Google Workspace, the Gmail. I think part of the reason we've had the 20 meg limit is 20 meg was the limit of SMTP and POP3 back in the day. There was a hard limit there because those servers, that's all they could handle. And I think that's kind of what has taken the time to push this forward, because at least with what I see every day, we're seeing less and less people use the old-fashioned standard email account where you can now have a platform on the back end to handle these large attachments and process these files. Because I know I sent something to somebody today that was a 30 meg PDF file. I sent it, it bounced right back, and I said, why? And it said the limit, on that was like 25 meg. I look it up, this person was still using standard email access, so we had to find another way to share that file. We shared that file with OneDrive. So I think as we're seeing more people go to the Microsoft Outlook and the Gmails, we can lift these limits where we can actually use our email for this stuff.
Yes, and I need to clarify something. I actually went straight to the roadmap to get more details on the file size. Again, they're not listed, but the way that this works is actually more akin to what I just said earlier. What you, instead of being bounced back like you said, you will now get a prompt that says, hey, would you like to download this file to OneDrive? And I think you will be options to share the file from OneDrive to people. So your email won't go back, be bounced back to you saying, hey, this is too large to send. In general, it'll just say, hey, would you like to store this somewhere that offers larger file size? And then you get, a myriad of options on the ways to share that file. So it's still sort of the similar situation we had before, but instead of just shutting down the email from going out, you will now be able to save it somewhere else and then distribute it how you would like to.
I might need to refresh a little bit of what I said then, since you found that information, because unfortunately, Google Drive and Google Workspace have been doing this for a while. When you hit their magical internal limit, it'll automatically create the link and ask you, do you want to send it? So nice to see Microsoft, I hate to kind of revert, but catching up a little bit on that one.
Yeah. What's our next headline?
Let's see. We have going to talk about photos for a minute. If you need yet another place to store your photos that, guess what, is cloud-based, we have a company called, I'm going to pronounce this, Malio, that offers a way for you to declutter your photos with the new Malio Photo version 24. Basically, long story short, reminds me of Google Photos, except Malio says they do not scrape your data. They do not have access to your data. The big deal about this is privacy, privacy, privacy. It is cloud independent. They're not using a Google Cloud on the back end, a Azure Cloud on the back end. They have their own, and you can go in and you can control the metadata that's put on these photos. You can create your albums, your photos, your libraries, and you can share these as you see fit. You can offer access to certain people to delete, add, or remove photos. Nothing is web indexed. Excuse me. And you can now do that later this month. Things will start at $9.99 a month or $99 per year. So if you want to pay for some photo sharing to have a few extra features and not have Google or Microsoft or Apple or whoever you're using scraping your data, there's an opportunity for you. Pretty cool little product.
Take that, Flickr. Our next headline
That's an
is
old one.
exactly. Microsoft's talking about Outlook's new single code base in a new video. The video is about 37 minutes long. We're joined by Robert Nowitzki and Marjorie Clinton, and the two of them sit and just talk about Outlook for Windows, the app that is basically merging everything. Here are some key points from the video if you don't want to sit through the whole 37 minutes, which I do suggest you do because it's very informative. Microsoft is investing in a new Outlook for Windows to address client fragmentation challenges and deliver a more agile, customizable experience. The new Outlook for Windows will be based on the web code based, but will also have the feel of a native client, which I think they're working towards. And the new Outlook for Windows will be more customizable than the classic Outlook, with options to change the ribbon, density, and layout. Again, they're basically trying to modernize the native client for Outlook for Windows, which is heavy, takes up a lot of resources, takes up a lot of space, it caches a lot of things, and often offers more features, different features than you get on your tablet or on the Android or iOS version. I think they're trying to strike a balance between all of those by offering 75% of the features that you get from the native client, but 100% of the flexibility you get from a web-based one, where, like we mentioned earlier, that you can jump from any device and still get the same exact look and feel in the same way that you move and navigate things within Outlook. So again, if you move from Mac OS to Windows or vice versa, or you're using a Chromebook, your OneDrive, your Outlook will be exactly the same thing as if you move to your PC, or from your PC to your smartphone, and you have things that are flagged, you have things that are labeled, you have things that are scheduled, you have rules. All those things are all carried over through every device, and I think that's the benefit of the new cloud-based or one code base. The downside is we're going to go through bumps right now while they work on that. There's something that they should have hashed or been working on for the past 10 years. They've always come out with different clients and said, oh, this is their new version, but they've never actually addressed the big elephant in the room, which is the Exchange version, or the dedicated heavy duty Office app. They've always just brought out additional companion apps to that one. This one seems like they're working to, deconstruct that one and give us as much as they can while modernizing it.
I'm going to say something real short and sweet here. Please don't screw this up, Microsoft. This is one of those things that, I have battled for the last 10 years, and even with our review units and testing things, when you've got the desktop client there, you expect to sign into the desktop client on another device, and simple things. Your rules copy over, your folder structures and those rules copy over. And I'm okay with a different set of features on my iPad, on my tablet, on my mobile device. But come on, Microsoft, just the basic functionality of workflow should be the same on all devices. Please fix it. We've been asking for years. Don't screw it up.
And with that being said, I think they just dropped the ball. I think I heard them drop the ball as you finished that sentence. So we'll see what they come out with in the next update. With that being said, let's get into our final discussion, which is Starfield. For those of you who have been waiting patiently, we appreciate it. Now you shall be rewarded. Some of the headlines that we've gotten over the week or that are regarding Starfield, one of them is being, I think it was in an interview, the lack of vehicles. For those of you who haven't played Starfield yet, you get a spaceship. You are given one, gifted one by someone that you meet early on in the story. You can go on to get other spaceships, which I tried to commandeer one and killed myself. We'll get into that story in a second. You can build out your spaceship, but it is spaceship based. Once you're on the planets, though, you're walking. So get your step counter in. You're walking basically everywhere. And I think someone interviewed Bethesda's Todd Howard about that, and he said that this is by design for now. So there's an asterisk there. We don't know. I believe off mic, David and I were talking about DLCs and just roadmaps for features, things like that. So perhaps down the line, maybe 6 months from now, even a year, they will start to introduce terrain-based vehicles that will allow you to go from spot to spot a lot faster. But as of now, you are walking most of the planet, and it could take forever. You could stumble across fun, interesting things, or you could walk for miles and not see anything. So that's one of the headlines. Another headline we have is that the WNBA teamed up with Xbox teams to basically paint the court as a Starfield homage, essentially. And it was really cool. Yeah. This is the second year that they've done this at the Barclays Center. I believe last year they did Roblox, I guess the first time they did their Roblox. It's the New York Liberty. If you're interested in seeing the game, it happened yesterday. So if you can find it anywhere, maybe on Hulu, or if you have some sports subscription via YouTube or Amazon Prime, you can go back and check out the court. It's really cool. They use the key colors of the blue, yellow, orange, and red with the Starfield logo in the center. It's just fun, nice marketing that Microsoft tends to get right on these kinds of things, even if the games don't tend to be as great as they could be. But it's just, again, a stark contrast to the marketing partnerships we saw with Redfall, which were zero. It felt like. What, you want to read another headline that we got, or do you just want to get into? Oh, I think our other one was about the 1 million concurrent players.
Yep. We've got Phil Spencer hit the Twitters, the X's, whatever you'd like to call it, and says Starfield has been played concurrently by 1 million people. So we're 2 days in from the official public launch outside of pre-orders and the early accesses. So if we're seeing 1 million concurrent people, I think this, like we were talking about off mic, I think this is a good sign for where the game is, the future of the game, and long story short, I think the future is bright for Starfield.
Yeah, we should also note that there were several ways to get into it. You could have, like you said, pre-ordered. You can buy the game when it came out. You can also just play it on Game Pass. So that's, even though yes, I think our Game Pass numbers are hovering around 30 million or something like that, people who have the time to sit down and play this game, they all were able to just kind of jump onto it starting September 6th. And so hopefully we'll see those numbers stay at that peak because it is a very interesting game. But to our point off mic, we'll see where we're at when other games, because right now we're kind of in the dog days of gaming. We'll see what happens when the next Call of Duty comes out in a few months, or when people are drawn to maybe Spider-Man, I believe is next month. So we'll see that. The other thing that we have is basically our general discussion. We want to start off by telling everybody just the minimum specs. If you're ready to, like I said, get into this game this weekend, you will need Windows 10 as your oldest operating system. So for those of you on Windows 8, stop it. You're only hurting yourself. And Windows 7 people, don't even look at me. You will also need the processor, obviously an Intel Core i7 will be your minimum spec essentially for that if you want to run it at any type of decent frame rate and not crash your system, or an AMD Ryzen 5 series. You'll need 16 gigabytes of memory. You'll need it graphics wise. You'll need an AMD Radeon RX 5700 or an NVIDIA GeForce 1070 Ti minimum. Again, those of you who create your own systems, have at it, boost as much as you can. You obviously need a network internet connection. This game cannot be played offline, unfortunately. You'll need a minimum 125 gigabytes of disk space on either your Xbox or your PC. You'll need DirectX version 12. An additional notes is you'll need a solid state storage drive in order to run this off of, so you won't be able to put it on an external, I believe, and old cheap external and run it off that. I think you might still be able to run it off an SSD, an external SSD, as long as the read-write speeds are fast enough.
I'll throw one thing in there in my testing with the PC version that I figured out. With the SSD required, I know if you get a lot of pre-built machines, and sometimes when we build our own, we like to take and put a spinning drive in for our storage drive. I could not play the game off of a spinning drive inside of a desktop PC. It had to be 100% SSD. And I can say we've got some gaming PCs in for review from Lenovo that I have been playing this on. And those vary in spec. I can tell you with Starfield PC, you can get the 4K resolution, you can get that awesome in all experience, but kind of like what you mentioned in the headline above, the Bethesda has been asked, why is the game not optimized for PC? And they came back very sternly and said, it is. If it doesn't run on your PC, sorry, maybe you need to consider buying a new one or upgrading your existing, because they're saying Starfield is part of what's going to push us to that next step. I can tell you in my experience, Starfield loves hardware. I have done it on a 4070 Lenovo with an i7. I have done it on an AMD. I have done it on a Lenovo laptop with an i9, and it also ran well, but it loves those hardware resources for the best experience.
Yeah, this is, I think they said it was over 1,000 planets you can visit. So it's an expensive game that it will require a lot of resources. The last bit of minimum spec requirements is that you have a 64-bit processor and operating system, an operating system that runs on that. So you 32-bit people, you should have died out 6 years ago. But if you're still around, find your 64-bit friends or family and play on their system. That's the last bit of hardware news. We also have some tips, and you can go read this at our write-up on our website and on Microsoft.com. But we'll give it to you here because you've sat and waited long enough. For those of you getting ready to get into it, get in the habit of hard saving your game because you never know what's going to happen out there. I have died more times than there are hours in the day so far in this game, and hard saving can prevent you from losing, like I said, those miles that you've walked to get from spot to spot. The other thing we suggest is scanning everything because there are resources, minerals, weapons, money, things like that lying everywhere. There are people some people have colonized planets before you got there, and they've left a ton of stuff behind. So get in the habit of walking around and scanning as much as you can, because you'd be surprised what you can pick up. Now, with that being said, you do carry all of that on you. Unfortunately, you have a robot friend that you can give some stuff to, but not a lot. So keep that in mind. The further out you get from your spaceship, the more stuff you collect. There is no real quick way to unload any of that stuff. So you have to keep that in mind, especially if you get chased by aliens, because they have no sympathy and they run faster than you more often than not. The next thing we want you guys to do is rest often. There are certain ways you can build out your character, and there are certain benefits some of these options have, as far as being accessible to space. Like your body is just more of I guess, what do you say, ingest and exhales carbon differently, things like that, based on the way you design your character. So if you want to, I guess, be at your top whenever anything's about to happen, rest often. That is a suggestion. So try not to outpace yourself. Don't run long distances or anything like that, especially if you pick an alien race that isn't native to certain planets or being in space. So just keep that in mind. The next thing we have is to remember your map favorite weapons and items, because you're going to want to get to those quickly. I've died several times trying to switch from my what is it, mineral? What is that gun? The mining gun.
Yes.
To an actual gun. I've tried to shoot aliens with a mining gun, and they've looked at me and then angrily and then eaten me. So make sure that you map your weapons and map your favorite items, like health. You're gonna need your health. You're gonna need it a lot. Make sure that it's handy within the directional pad. I think it's where you map all that kind of stuff. Put your companion to work for you, which, like you said, you have a companion. He's not R2D2. He's kind of like a mix between R2 and my God, what was the other one's name? C3PO. He's anthropomorphic, so to speak, but he's very short. But you know, he does translations. He does a lot of stuff. He can carry things. So, and you know, you can often talk to him. So when you're out there on a planet all by yourself and you've been walking for about 2 hours and need someone to talk to, make use of that. Don't go stir crazy. The last thing is don't be afraid to explore, but don't forget the main story either. I've already forgotten the main story, so I haven't even followed my own advice on this one. There's a lot to do. For those, I think people mentioned to you that, you know, after the 10th hour starts to get good. I think that's because they've been doing side missions. They've been doing a lot of other extra stuff to get to where they're at in the 10th hour. And then they probably gotten back to the story and said, oh, this is great. Because I've done that. I've already veered far off from that. How's your experience been for the game?
I'm just now getting into it good. I didn't get as much time this week. I'm still within that first 10 to 12 hour period. For me, I agree with what I've seen so far. It's been a slow start, but I can feel that I'm at that point where it's starting to get, you know, the intensity starting to build, the curiosity is starting to build. I haven't shot myself out of I believe you said you shot yourself out of a plane window or something. I've not done that.
I attempted to hijack a spaceship, and when I got on board, I took my helmet off, which was mistake number one. And then I attempted to assassinate the crew and shot out one of the windows, and we all died. You can't breathe in space, ladies and gentlemen.
At least it's realistic.
Very much so. The other thing I've seen, and this might have been a bug, which, you know, we're going to talk about the state the game has been released in, which has, you know, been phenomenal. But I had my robot interrogate somebody, or at least interrogate with me, and they've ended up brutalizing the person I was interrogating. I didn't ask them to. They just outright punched the person because they thought they were lying. So these are some of the quirks and fun things you can get into that take up half an hour, hours on end, that are part of the main mission. And like we said, it is just, Bethesda has done a great job here of melding some things that they already know and offer some new things. I think the main takeaway from this game is that it's felt a lot like a Fallout game in space. But the other main takeaway is that it's much more polished than Fallout has been. It's much more polished than any Bethesda game has been in any recent release that we know of, at least in the last decade or so. A lot of people were expecting bugs. I think you and I talked off mic about this being a game full of potential initially, but full of bugs, kind of like a Cyberpunk, kind of like a No Man's Sky. And these, again, not to say that those games haven't gotten much better and been, you know, given even awards since their release. You know, in the state that Cyberpunk came out, it was laughable. People said, hey, you know, you had 10 years to do this and you guys dropped the ball big time. And there's no way you're never recover. And now we're getting DLCs with Idris Elba in the gameplay. And, you know, people are saying that, you know, all the things that you can do now have just been much more enhanced because of the dedication and work that those developers have put in over the last year and a half. We expected that. I did personally expected that from this game. I thought, you know, there were going to be a lot of elements just from watching the gameplay over the last 2.5 years of releases that was going to be great. But it's Bethesda, and I felt like they were going to drop the ball. So far, they haven't. Again, the game has, I think, garnered about a 7.8 average on a lot of things. There are a lot of menu selection options, travel things that people are frustrated with right now. And we'll see if they address that in the coming months. But as far as just the gameplay itself, and the elements of, like, you know, building out your character, being able to start off the game with a mortgage. I don't know why people would want to, but you can start off with a mortgage. You can also start off by being, I think it's family oriented, where you send money back to your folks. I think it's 2% of everything that you gather, but it gives you an option to have a home base. I chose to be a gangster, so I have no home, which is why I tried to steal ships. But there is just so much you could do in this game that has very little to do with the story already, and the story itself is still engaging as well. They start you right off the bat with a really cool, you know, you're being hunted, so to speak, kind of vibe to it. And you know, the character creation is great, and they do this parenting mode thing where, like, based on what you created for your character, they create parents that resemble the mixture of those two. So for those of you who do have families, that's kind of a cool thing. First, I think. I've been really enamored with the game. I'll be playing it more this weekend. I've gotten, you know, a little bit beyond the 10 hours, I think, like you have, but not by much. And I've already found so much engaging with it.
Now, we have it set off, Michael. You play an Xbox, PC?
I play actually both. I play most of my hours have been logged on the Xbox, but there have been occasions where I've grabbed my Surface Laptop Studio and kicked it up on that, either natively or through xCloud.
How did that work on the studio? Not to get people too far off the subject here. That's last year's model, so that's a 3060.
Yes,
How did that do for you?
it was actually decent.
Or is it a 3050?
It's a 30. That is a good question. I think it's 3060. Let me double check. Yeah, but it played well. I mean, my frame rates were about anywhere between 40 and 60 most times, depending on the level of atmospheric like elements or whatnot. But yeah, I mean, I got a pretty solid uh, 40 frames, I think. Not the 60, and I think they said it mostly at 30, so it was actually punching above its weight. It is a dun, da, 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 4060.
3060, 4060,
3060, sorry, 3060.
Okay.
So
So
yeah.
so just to give people some idea, that's last year's NVIDIA card. This year's the 40 series. That's last year's. There was the 3050 that was the 4 gig card. The 3060 in laptops was the 6 gig card, kind of considered the first real gaming card. I think the 3050 was used for lightweight gaming or video editing. So if you're getting those specs on a 3060, that's pretty good.
Yeah, and like I said, I've played it both natively with with it taking up 25 gigs of my device, and through xCloud. And even through xCloud, it was actually pretty good. I got some artifacting, obviously, as my Wi-Fi, kind of throttled at some points, but it was still very playable and easy access. I mean, it was easy to kind of just spin up the game and continue where I left off, which is always the key.
Well, I tell you, just to throw this out there, I've not seen anybody try this yet in any post I've seen online. You brought up cloud gaming, and that's something we have discussed over the past few weeks. Whether it's it's good points, it's bad points. Whether some people are questioning is it viable at this point. I'm going to pick up a Chromebook this weekend that I have and plug in an Xbox controller, and we'll see Monday and maybe in next week's pod how well it did on a Chromebook with some cloud gaming. That would be, something that people can. Starfield's the type of game that cloud gaming should be for, because it's not a Twitch-based first-person shooter, and maybe if it works well, you can cloud game on your iPads, your tablets, your 4Gs, your 5Gs, and enjoy it anywhere.
I mean, that is true, but I have gotten into some shootouts where we have stuff blowing up, we have spaceships taking off, we have machines that are just destroying things. So it can get Call of Duty-esque-ish, or I guess a better scenario would be like if you were to play, like, I don't know, The Division or something like that in first-person mode. Oh, and that's the other thing. The game isn't just first person. You can change your view to over the shoulder, or a third person view. So you aren't just stuck in first person mode. So hit that, like, I don't know, with the select, whatever the select button would be on an Xbox controller, and it'll change your view. So I got used to playing over the shoulder just because I wanted to see what my character looked like, the one that I created as they walked and did stuff. So again, just some minor things that might help improve your gameplay.
Folks, I'm going to say this. There's a lot to explore. There's a lot of opportunities. It's not a linear game where, you kind of know the beginning and you've got to, everybody's working their way to the same ending. And I think this is not a new way of thinking, because we've had games like this before, but I think this is the refreshed way of thinking with more opportunities than we've had before. And some of those opportunities will get, turned back to Bethesda about what they want to do with the game. There's talk of, possibly allowing mods for, our players to mod things. There has been the question of how will the Xbox handle mods. So if we go down that mod route, that's something to mention, but I will say, in my experience, the game is worth the effort. In the Xbox Series S, people, I saw another podcaster this week say, well, my Xbox Series S is my Call of Duty box and my Starfield box. That's all it does, because that's the only, it's full of storage. It's worth the 125 gigs.
Yeah, and I'll put a button on this last part of the conversation. This is just the beginning, ladies and gentlemen. It's a very good beginning for Bethesda, one of the better ones they've had in a long time. But for those of you who are frustrated with it early on, or those of you who had early access codes and have already finished it, as we said last week, we expect this to be sort of like your Fortnite slash Grand Theft Auto, where this is the base platform of the game, and it will be expanded upon in the coming months and years. This isn't just we put this game out, and this is the finished product, and you have to get a new title 4 or 5 years from now. I do believe that they will continue working on this. This is, again, the base platform of the game. They will maybe add an online component. They may just add more ships, more customization, more stories, more stories through DLCs, more features as far as guns, aliens, all that kind of stuff. But it's only been 72 hours, and so far it's been a fun 72 hours for a lot of people.
Mm-hmm. It has, and I hope I'm gonna jump in this weekend and see how far I can get.
Cool.
And we'll see how this ends up.
Yeah, before we close out, we just want to also talk about our hardware section, because we love to review things and we have tons of hardware. I know that you are still reviewing a lot of Lenovo stuff. I have a lot of actually Samsung stuff. I just got the Tab S. I don't know if you guys see that. Tab S9 Plus. I'm reviewing the phones, which should have my final review on those up next week. So you'll be surprised on which folding phone I actually prefer. I will also be reviewing the Dell Touch 24, which is, again, we mentioned the Surface laptop type competitor. I have a new mic and a new boom arm that I'm testing out for our recording purposes. And I think that might be it for this week. What do you got?
I'll be getting the X1 Carbon review up. That's a Lenovo laptop. That is by far one of my favorite. Now let me classify this. My favorite business laptops that Lenovo has produced. That so far has been one of my favorites of 2023. I will also be putting out the Lenovo Legion 5i desktop review. You'll probably see that the end of the week, the following week, which would be the week of the 17th. So you'll see that one. That one has been very interesting to me, and I don't want to spoil the review, but that's a little bit of a different gaming desktop than what your Alienwares, your MSIs put out. It's got its pros and cons, and the way I look at it is, if you're an adult gamer like Kareem and myself, even though we may not always act our age at times, if you're an adult gamer, this might be the desktop for you, and I'll explain that in the review. That'll be an interesting read, I think, for a lot of folks. It's not going to be your typical, okay, I need a pre-built, go buy it off the shelf. I think there's reasons you buy the Lenovo desktop. There are a couple reasons that you don't buy the Lenovo gaming desktop, but I don't think they're going to be deal breakers for anybody.
Thank you. We also want to thank you guys for sticking with us all the way through to this podcast. Where can people find you at?
David PHA1978 on Twitter, X, whatever you'd like to call it.
You can find me at MindHit1 on the same spots. You can also find me at Kramer Anderson on Threads. We want to say go out and enjoy your weekend. If that happens to be touching grass and being outdoors and enjoying family and friends and all that kind of fun, go do that. If it's going to be shacking up and becoming a hobbit indoors playing Starfield all day, do that as well. Do what makes you guys feel best. Whatever it is, enjoy that weekend.
Have a good weekend, folks. We'll see you next week.
Bye.